Belinda. Today I'm sharing something that is really very exciting for me. Not only is this my first project as part of the Cut to You design team, but it's also a project that I have created to celebrate Cut to You's second year in business. Throughout the month of July, they are holding a celebratory YouTube hop, and I'm really honoured to be sharing this online creative space with some absolutely amazing women. I've popped a link to the Cut to You blog in the description box of the video, and you'll be able to find more information there about who is participating in the hop, as well as 2 challenges that Gwen has created to inspire you to play along this month as we celebrate Cut to You's second year in business. And as an added bonus, at the end of this video, I've also included a discount code for you to get 20% off everything in the Cut to You store, and that's valid through to the end of the 31st of July 2020 Australian Eastern Standard Time. Now, because this is such a special project for me, I really wanted to make sure that I put a lot of thought into it and that it was something that was maybe pushing my boundaries a little bit more creative than I would usually get. So all up, you can see I've done a lot of cutting here. My poor silhouette machine was running just about all day while I was cutting these out. I have cut out a total of 5 of the beautiful cut files from Cut to You. They are all florals or foliage type cut files. So the standout feature on my layout is going to be this chevron bouquet cut file, which I have manipulated a little bit. It is more of a full page background cut file, but I've cut it out twice in 2 different sizes, and I have cut off the edges because I'm planning on using this to frame my page, which will make more sense once I get started. And then I've also gone ahead and I will put a link, or I'll put in the description box below, the names of all the cut files that I've used, along with links on where you can get them in the shop. But I have gone ahead and out of some white cardstock and some pink cardstock and some pink patterned paper, I have gone ahead and I have cut out a whole bunch of florals, and there are also some leaves in here too. And I'm going to use these to really add a lot of wow, a lot of really pretty floral textural elements to this layout. The photos that I'm scrapping is this beautiful bright bouquet of flowers that my husband sent to me recently for our first anniversary. And I'm going to be pulling from the Cocoa Vanilla Midnight collection to add some papers and some embellishments. So that's a quick description or a quick explanation of where we're going. Let's hop on fast forward and see how we go. Okay, so this video is super fast. It's sped up really quickly because I wanted to keep some of the detail in without having a video that was an hour long. So it does move pretty quickly, and I hope that that is okay if you are watching. While I'm trimming down this white piece of cardstock and adding some gesso, I just wanted to take a quick moment to talk about the Cut to You shop and what is on offer. So it is a cut file store. You can purchase all of your digital cut files that can be used in the Silhouette and Cricut software and any die cutting machine. But what is really good about the Cut to You shop is that you can also buy custom cuts, which is where Gwen will cut your cut files for you using some white cardstock. I believe it's just white cardstock. And then she'll ship them to you worldwide. So if you don't have an electronic cutting machine but you still want to make use of these beautiful die cuts, you can purchase them through the Cut to You shop, and the link for that is down below. Definitely check it out if it is something that you're wanting to try yourself. So as you've seen, I've trimmed this white cardstock down, and then I'm just adding a thin layer of gesso to the back of it because I'm going to do a little bit of really soft mixed media. I'm breaking into these Lindy's Stamp Gang magical powders. This is the first time that I've used them on a project. I've seen lots of YouTubers making use of these, and they are just so pretty and so shimmery. I had to pick some up. So I'm trying to, although it's the first time I've used them on a project, I have played around with them a little bit just to test them out, and they are super pigmented. So I know with my mixed media that I've been doing recently, I haven't been entirely happy with the finished product because I've been adding too much pigment to my backgrounds, and I'm really trying to achieve a softer look. So this time I was mindful of that, and I'm being really careful to add extra water in. So you can see in my little palette there, they're quite dark sitting in the palette, but then when I've added them onto the page, I've added some extra water from the jar at the top there, and I've also sprayed or misted some extra water on as well. I'm pushing the color around with my nice big soft brush, and then I'm going in with just a small piece of plastic to smush it out, just to give it a slightly more organic line on the edges. I am not a fan of the packaging technique on its own, which is something that I've briefly talked about in a previous video, but I'm also finding that when I'm applying the color with a brush, my edges are too refined, they're too finished, they don't sort of blend out into the background. So I'm still working on my techniques with mixed media, and I'm just playing around to see what works for me. And this, I will say, this does seem to have worked really well. It's definitely given the finish that I was looking for. So it's got some really soft pinks and a really nice soft purple. And these colors, the pinks were inspired by the challenge that was put up on the Cut to You, that has been put up for the Cut to You second birthday party, which is, or second birthday celebration, which is using some pinks and some whites and some blacks. The photos that I've chosen have got those really bold, bright pinks in the flowers and the bold purples, so I definitely wanted something softer in the background. And I have gone ahead and added some splatters. I've added some pink splatters and some purple splatters and some gold Liquitex acrylic ink. Now I'm coming in with this brand new product. It is a light texture paste. I believe it's from Prima. It is so soft and so pretty. I loved the Faber-Castell whipped spackle, and I had some which I had been hoarding, and when I went to use it, it was all dried up. I'm not sure if that was just something that happened with the product, or it's because of where I had it stored, which is on a shelf directly in front of my air conditioner, but it dried up and it's almost impossible to find now. So I was looking for something similar, and I thought I'd try this light texture paste, and it is gorgeous. It is so fluffy, it is so light, and it is exactly what I was looking for. So I'm using that with just a polka dot stencil from Tim Holtz to add a little bit more interest and texture to that background that I've created there. Now I am going to trim out the center from this piece of pattern paper which came from the Cocoa Vanilla Midnight collection, and I'm going to use that as the mat for my page. If you have watched some of my videos, you'll know that this is something that I have just been doing on all of my layouts lately, adding a mat to the page and then going and running it through my sewing machine to add a stitched layer around the border. So I've left this in because I thought, it might be handy for some people to see. I am a stickler for straight. I get really frustrated if things aren't on straight. I can't let it go. So this is one of the techniques that works for me to get my matted paper on nice and straight, is I put my 4 pieces of adhesive down on the edges, and then I just peel them off one at a time, and that allows me to position my paper where I want it to be without it being unmovable. I will say that it was a little bit harder this time because the paper was a little bit warped from that mixed media, but it's not as straight as I would normally like it to be, but it works. Okay, so that's gone through my sewing machine, and now I'm ready to adhere these cut files. I kept the negative from when I cut them, run it through my silhouette, because I knew that I would need this to properly position all of the pieces of the cut file, because I did manipulate it. When you look at the cut file in the shop, it does come in one whole piece, so it's not broken apart into small pieces like you see here. The reason it is in these pieces is because I trimmed a whole portion of the cut file off in my Silhouette Studio software before I cut it out, and that's why I've got it in pieces rather than as one whole cut. And that's because I knew that I wanted to have it sitting up against the edge of the page, and it's going to create like a little arrow pointing towards the center of the page, pointing towards my photos. The reason I didn't cut it out as one whole piece and then just trim off the bits that I didn't need is that I didn't want to waste that whole piece of cardstock. I could have done that, and you certainly can do that if you don't feel confident manipulating cut files in the Silhouette Studio software. But I didn't, because I didn't want to waste. This is a Basil Tutu Pink, which is a stunningly beautiful, soft, perfect pink. But it is quite hard to find here in Perth where I am, so I'm trying to be frugal in using it, which is not something that I always do in my scrapbooking, but with this particular cardstock, yeah, I'm being a little bit more mindful of not wasting any. So you can see I'm using that backing file as, or the negative as the template to lay each of these pieces down. It was a little bit fiddly adding my glue to this little floral piece because there is lots and lots of little bits that needed some adhesive stuck down, but I got there. The other thing that you can probably see me do, or you've seen me do, is as I stick a piece down, I'm then lifting up the backing, and that's just to make sure that once it's adhered down, it is not going to be stuck to that backing piece, so that when I pull the backing piece away, it's not stuck to the cut file that I want to stay on my page. All right, so those are now dry and stuck down really well. I'm just going to do a little bit of layering behind my photo here, not too much. I'm going to use the piece that I gutted out of the middle of that pattern paper that's used for the mat. And I'm choosing to use the lighter pink. It's an ombre piece of paper, so I'm using the lighter pink. I'm also going to use this absolutely gorgeous floral print. It's just so pretty. And I'm trimming down this cut apart sheet, and I'm going to use some of the pieces from this as layers for my photo. This Cocoa Vanilla Midnight collection is probably my favorite that they have brought out, and I admit I haven't really touched it until now. I'm one of those terrible scrapbookers who, when I find something that I love, I hoard it. I don't like to cut into it because I am silly and just continue searching for that perfect photo or that perfect story. And I know that that's not the right thing to do. So I have been making a bit of an effort this year to break that habit. I broke into a favourite Felicity Jane kit a couple of weeks ago. Now I'm getting stuck into this Cocoa Vanilla kit. I think I'm making progress. So let me know in the comments, when you've got a collection that you love, do you hoard it or do you use it until it's all gone? I'd love to hear your stories. So you can see I've cut out a little piece from the center of that card, and that's just so that I can have the dark frame popping out on opposing corners of that photo. And then I'm going to repeat that effect here with this mixed media looking card. So I've cut out the center, and then it just fills in the opposing corner or the opposite corner and really balances it out. And to finish off, this isn't tissue paper. This is, I have a pack of 12 by 12 acetate sheets, and between each of the pieces of acetate, there is this really thin, it's kind of like tissue paper, but it's actually a little bit thicker than tissue paper. So I used some acetate for a previous layout, and this had this piece just sitting on a stack of papers next to me on the floor, and I thought, hey, this is the perfect place to use it. So I have folded it over. There's 4 layers of tissue behind this, which I think really adds a nice soft textural layering element behind the photo. And it's just really pretty. So I had adhered it down with some tape runner, which was a little bit tricky because it kept catching. And here I'm just using, it's a really thick piece of almost like a chipboard, and it came in some packaging with, I can't even remember, but it came in some scrapbook packaging. And I'm using that in place of foam tape at the moment, or adhesive foam at the moment, because number one, it's photo safe, it's acid free, and number two, it's good for the environment because I'm not wasting anything, and number three, it's a lower profile than the foam tape that I usually use, so my layout is going to be a little bit flatter, and that's something that I'm trying to be a little bit more mindful of at the moment as I look at my shelf, which is rapidly filling up with albums. The less layouts I can fit in an album, the more albums that I need and the more storage space that I need. So I'm trying to not add too much bumpy stuff to my layouts at the moment. So you've seen me add my journaling down below the photo. I've just roughly eyeballed that to the center of the photo. And now I am sticking down my title. So these gold foil puffy alpha stickers or alphabets have come from Felicity Jane. They're just sitting in my stash, and I'm using those to spell out the word anniversary. And then I've grabbed from the die cut title pieces, which was in the Cocoa Vanilla Midnight collection, I've grabbed that word happy, and it is quite a bold dark color, which ties in again with the mood board challenge as part of the Cut to You second birthday celebrations, which has got some black and some pink and some white. And I'm just going to nestle that in there on top of the word anniversary. And I have grabbed a few bits and pieces out of the kit. So that's a chipboard piece there that says my darling, and I'm going to start creating a little cluster to the left hand side. There's a fair bit of white space on the left hand side of that photo there. This was a frame. It's like a geometric oval shaped frame, or oval shaped frame, which I've just trimmed in half, and I'm going to repeat the layering across. I'm just going to create two little clusters here, one on the bottom left of my photo, one on the top right, and I'm going to repeat these elements. This is another chipboard frame that's come out of the kit. It's white with a really soft floral print on it. And again, I've just trimmed that down so that I can tuck it behind my photo layers. Once I finish layering up all the embellishments on this, you don't really see a lot of these, the frames that I've put down, but that's okay. They are there, and I do think that even when you're covering up layered pieces, having them there just adds a little bit more interest, and it may not be something that is obvious to your eye, but once it's all finished, I think it really does make a difference. So I've grabbed a little word strip there that says Little Moments, and that's in the top right, and underneath that is a little pink banner flag, which I've popped down there. And then I'd put at the bottom cluster, I'd put a white floral piece, but I've ended up swapping that up to the top. And then I'm going to put the pink one down the bottom here, and I'm going to also add another little die cut piece, which is, it's the same white floral print, which is why I switched the banners around, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's the start of my clusters, and now I'm going to add a little bit more. I pulled out of the ephemera kit, or the ephemera pack, some of the foliage pieces, and I made sure that I pulled out some pieces which had the darker print on them, just to balance against the really bold dark happy in the title up the top there. And I'm also layering in some of the leaves that I've cut out using my silhouette. That's from one of the Cut to You cut files, which is linked below. And so I'm starting off by adding the foliage in here, and then I'm going to come in and add some florals in a moment. So I had some difficulty getting my layered elements tucked in behind the photo, and I had a thought as I was doing it that perhaps what might have been cleverer would have been to build these layered floral clusters alongside my photo or onto my photo before I had adhered it down on the page. I'm not sure. I have said before that layering and clustering, layering elements is not one of my fortes. I'm definitely still learning. I think it comes out okay in the end, but that is something that I will consider in future, is whether I do my layering and my little bits of clustering alongside photos before I adhere it down, just to give me a little bit of flexibility so I can tuck things in behind a little bit easier. So I did run some of these really delicate die cut pieces through my Xyron, thinking that it might make it easier to adhere them to the page. It didn't actually work as well as I hoped it would, because if you've used a Xyron before, you probably know that it can leave a little bit of glue residue between the pieces. And so when I pulled them off the backing, the residual adhesive was really obvious sitting between or sitting in amongst that really delicate die cut. So my wet adhesive definitely was the best way to go for this. So I'm just grabbing a couple of the floral pieces, and I have trimmed some of them down because I couldn't tuck them in all the way behind and I didn't want to waste half of it. So I'm just trimming them down, lifting up those layers slightly and just adhering them into place. I didn't end up using a heck of a lot of these die cut florals because it was wow that I was going for, but it was just getting a little bit too busy. And because they are quite delicate and soft, and the background is also quite soft, as I added them onto the already layered elements, they were just getting lost and they weren't really standing out the way that I wanted them to. So I decided not to add too many more of them and just use them as another little bit of added interest. And I think it does add some really pretty elements to each of those clusters. I'm coming in now with some enamel dots. These were just from my stash. It's possible that they came from Cocoa Vanilla. The way that I have my enamel dots stored now is I cut them down into strips and then store them in a little container and just sort through and look for the colors that I need. So these colors coordinated really well with the products that I was using. So it's possible that they came from Cocoa Vanilla, or they may have come somewhere completely different. I'm not sure. I went a little bit gung-ho with them, and I think off camera, I don't believe I do it on camera, off camera I do come back and just take some of those off. And now I am adhering down my final floral pieces, which is just to fill in some of the white space on the bottom of those photos there. And that will be it to finish off my layout. Of course, I do have some close-up photos coming at the end, as well as that 20% discount code for Cut to You. If you are unsure about what's going on, all of the details are linked in the description box below. I would love it for you to give me a like if you have enjoyed watching this video, and if you're not already subscribed, I would love for you to join me and subscribe to my channel. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.